And good evening. We are live. This is the Week 7 preview. Welcome into the Vampire Fantasy Football Forum podcast. Before we get on to our Week 7 prep, I do want to take a moment. Let's have a discussion. Let's talk about something. Let's have a discussion here. Let's, if you allow me, provide a brain vomit here for you. Just my thoughts on. I want to take a moment to talk about the Taysom Hill scenario we have within fantasy football. You know, I look at social media, and again, this is a purely fantasy football topic, not an NFL topic. Okay. We all know the Saints as an organization, they could not care less about your fantasy football team. They are trying to win a football game and utilize the players that they have on their roster in the best way possible to achieve that goal to win. That's why they're there. If you're paying attention to fantasy football, social media, like I was saying, one of the topics is the debate about Taysom Hill. Should he be allowed to play tight end? Should he be a tight end rosterable position? You know, since he is a tight end position, he is available to go into a flex spot, which is, as we all know, running back, wide receiver, or tight end eligible. But the argument is it's like getting another QB in at your tight end position. I'm not going to argue with that because, let's face it, Taysom Hill does play quarterback a lot more than he plays tight end. But I'm actually going to back the managers that have gone out, grabbed Taysom Hill, started him, and played him in those spots. The argument here is that because he is not utilized as a tight end, he is utilized as a quarterback or a running back, he should not be tight end eligible. Well, the Saints have they have designated him as a tight end. He is designated as a tight end, which is why he has a tight end eligibility. I'm going to highlight at least one other player here, and this is a fairly high-profile player that's also a tight end. Okay? There's not as much noise about something coming like this because he doesn't get snaps at a different position than tight end very often. He does occasionally. And this happens with other players. I'm going to give one example, but there are others that have this as well. But I'm going to say the example I have is Travis Kelce. He occasionally will line up and take a direct snap as a running back. Typically, it's around the goal line. They've done this. Kansas City has done this with him. So the argument then is if Taysom Hill plays at quarterback and he plays tight end, should his points be allowed because he's playing as a quarterback? Well, that same argument then should be thought of. Then, and I see you in the chat. We will get to your question here in a sec. Let me finish my rant. I do apologize, but if Hill's points as a quarterback, since he's tight end, shouldn't allow, then Kelce's points as a running back should not allow either. Then, right? But no, we don't say that. We don't say that because Travis Kelce doesn't have the amount of snaps that Taysom Hill has outside of his tight end position. To play it correctly, we should be allowing Taysom Hill as a tight end because that's how the Saints have designated him. Is that how they use him? Nope, that's not. Those fantasy football managers that play him at tight end are at risk of getting no points because he is not utilized. The game does not allow him to be a quarterback. He does not have the rushing upside. He also have the opportunity to get him, 30 points, 15 points, 20 points, whatever it is that he has at that position. So I'm going to still say I agree with the fact that Taysom Hill is a tight end because that's how the Saints have designated him as a tight end. If we want to move past this particular individual and the player, I think how you move past that is you designate no tight end position. Make a flex or make several flexes where you have pass catchers, or go to one more extreme. Just make all quarterback or non-quarterback positions a flex, running back, wide receiver, tight end. And if you play in a 2 QB league, make a second quarterback position then. Until then, I think it's got to be allowed. Whether or not you like it or not, that's understandable. That's my thought. I really appreciate, allowing me to give my 2 cents and the brain vomit I just put out there on you. And question did come in on the chat. Does Eli Mitchell become more valuable handcuff than Alexander Mattison right now? That's a great question. I would say yes, Eli Mitchell would become a better handcuff than Alexander Mattison if at this moment speaking in time. The reason why, Dalvin Cook owns the backfield in Minnesota. He has been playing with a degenerative shoulder issue, but he has been playing with that shoulder issue for many years. It's only going to get worse, but he knows how to play with it. If he goes down, then Madison, yes, becomes playable, but I think Elijah Mitchell is a better athlete. And Christian McCaffrey is still the best. While he is the best running back for fantasy football, he is also at the greatest risk for fantasy football as well to get injured. And next question, based on the Taysom Hill rant I just did, and I do appreciate that. Question is, let's say Taysom Hill becomes QB1 for the Saints. Will they remove the tight end position designation and only be QB? If that were the case, and that could be a case, Andy Dalton's been hurt, and we all know Jameis Winston is still battling with some back fractures. I would say it would be on whatever platform you're on. So if you're on Sleeper, if you're on Yahoo, if you're on ESPN, you're on whatever it is, it's going to be it would be up to the platform to do that. But I would say, yes, it is the right thing to do until he is outside that, though. Until he is at quarterback 1, he's still tight end in my position. And again, my position only. So, and yes, they have done that one time, and they've done that with several different positions. I'm blanking on the names, but I think there was a Steeler one year that was a tight end that played wide receiver, or running back, or he's a running back that played tight end. And they did switch designations mid-season. Start 2 flex, Drake, Keenan, Deontay, Pierce. If it's Deontay Johnson and Dameon Pierce, and I'm assuming then Drake London and Keenan Allen, Keenan Allen's going to be a game time decision if he goes. And beat reporters for the Chargers, he said he walked through the last part of practice this week, which he did not last week. If he goes and is healthy, I would play Keenan Allen. And if it's Dameon Pierce, I'm assuming actually that might be Alec Pierce with the Colts. I would still do Deontay Johnson. If Keenan's not a go, and I think they have I can't remember what time their game is, but if you have to make a decision, it's Keenan and Deontay if Keenan's healthy. If not, it's Drake and Deontay for me. I do not like having the second wide receiver on the Colts right now. They are the second most pass heavy offense right now, but that is without Jonathan Taylor for a couple weeks. So, and Kenneth Walker and Bateman for Amon-Ra full PPR redraft. It really depends on your roster construction. If you have good wide receiver depth and you are also in need of a running back, I would take the Kenneth Walker and Bateman. There's a risk there with Bateman because he is coming off injury for sure. But I think that risk is worth it because the Ravens have one of the best wide receiver matchups for the rest of the year. Bateman's going to be the number 1 target behind Mark Andrews. So that would be my play is I'll take the upside with Bateman. Amon-Ra still playing with an ankle injury. Now, he is still playing. That's good. So I don't think you're selling low on Amon-Ra, but Jameson Williams potential comeback still. DJ Chark's going to get healthy. So I would say if you need running backs and you have other wide receivers that you can utilize and wait on Bateman. Bateman's going to pay off later on. Let's see. Trade Joe Mixon and Terry McLaurin for Breece Hall. Absolutely. Breece Hall is the next LaDainian Tomlinson, guys. This is, if you have Breece Hall, I'm assuming that's a seasonal league. And yeah, Mixon and McLaurin. I want Breece Hall. I don't know if the Breece Hall manager is going to go for that. Offering a guy with the name pedigree of Joe Mixon would do it, and giving a guy like McLaurin, yes, that would do it. I would want the Breece Hall side of that deal. Unfortunately, we're probably on the opposite side of the window where it's close to get Breece Hall, but I'd say go for it. If you can get him, go for it. Justin Jefferson, Mike Williams, and Jacoby Myers at wide receiver, and Aaron Jones, Hunt, Etienne, and James Robinson at running back. Beginning Amon-Ra on the trade stated before. Okay. I would still take on the Amon-Ra one, I'd take the Walker and Bateman side still. Would I drop AJ Dillon, Lazard, Drake, Ayuk, or leave Dillon on waivers? Would I drop for AJ Dillon? I think it depends on what you're saying. I'd like to say I pick up Dillon, but his production has been a lot worse as of late. The Packers could turn it around. If you're dropping one of those guys, it's Allen Lazard there. But again, the Packers have a very slow pace of play. This week they have a good week, so Lazard has a really good opportunity. But AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones have been cannibalizing touches for each other. So let's see. Sebastian Hughes wrote back. If the trade goes down, wide receivers are Jefferson, Amon-Ra, and Mike Williams. And then Aaron Jones, Etienne, Hunt, and James Robinson at running back. I mean, that's okay, but I think I'd still rather have the Bateman and Kenneth Walker just for Kenneth Walker. I like your running backs with Aaron Jones, Etienne. Having Kenneth Walker provides a better value than Hunt and James Robinson do at running back. And then another question comes in. What about Joe Mixon and Terry McLaurin for Swift? I would take the Swift side of that deal. The Lions, awful defense, as we know. Swift is coming back from injury, yes. But this is a good offense. After 4 weeks, this was the number one scoring offense. And I think they're going to get back to it, especially when they get pieces healthy. And Swift is that guy where there's still risk where he could get hurt, yes. But full PPR, Swift is an absolute monster. He was a guy I was targeting in the second round where I could. I unfortunately don't have him in a lot of leagues. And yes, Joe Mixon. It's a really scary for Joe Mixon if you have him because his production has been going down. But he has the ability. It's just that's a bad offensive line. I think they're going to throw the ball a lot this week in their game. So, yeah, if you're able to do that one, I would do that one, especially if you're set up wide receivers because you're really just throwing in Terry McLaurin at this point in time. So, yeah, great questions. I really appreciate from the chat. For those of you who are watching this live, keep them coming. I'm going to go through and keep doing a preview. For those that have not seen what we do here, I'm not going to go through game by game and cover all the injuries. I'm not going to say, hey, play this player, don't play that player. Most of the time I won't. I'm looking at where can we find our edges? Where can we differentiate ourselves on the edges here? Where are the guys we can find sleepers? Where are the guys that we're going to play, but have a hard matchup and maybe have to put a ceiling on what we think they are going to be able to do. And yeah, if your wide receivers are stacked, you got Waddle and Lazard. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, Waddle's going to be killing it this year. I mean, for those that drafted Waddle, despite all the rumors of, well, Tyreek Hill is there. Good for you. I applaud you because they are supporting both wide receivers, and it is such a wonderful thing to see both of them get utilized the way they are. So, I came on the show earlier in the week and I talked about, we're now in game 7. Or week 7, I should say, for the NFL. And we have 6 data points for this season. And one of the things that we like to do as fantasy football players, some analysts, and I'm just a guy here that talks in a microphone. I'm not necessarily an analyst, so I don't put myself in that category. I'm a fantasy football manager. I play. I enjoy it. We like to project based on those 6 data points what games are going to be. We did it last week really hard, where the biggest outlier game that we saw was, Pittsburgh was going to lose to the Bucks and lose big. That's just not what happened, though. And I think we have to be ready for variance whenever we're projecting game script on whether or not we're playing guys. Last week, everybody's saying sit Najee. And if you drafted Najee, I feel you. I have him in a couple leagues. It's a hard thing to have, but there's a lot of things that go into why we play players. It's athleticism, which Najee Harris is a great athlete. It's opportunity. And I know most every waiver wire since week 1, week 2 has said Jaylen Warren. But if you look at the snaps, the rush opportunity, the percentage, it's still Najee's backfield. And, if you have Najee, I hope you didn't go out and grab Jaylen Warren as a backup, as a potential stash, because my thought was for the teams that I have Najee Harris on is this is not as good of an athlete as Najee Harris. The team is not a good situation. I don't want to invest in a backup on a potential. I'd rather differentiate and invest somewhere else where I have a higher ceiling as for my team all around. So hopefully you did that. Having Lamar, no backup QB, trade B-Rob for TB12. Brian Robinson for TB12. Yeah, I would do that. Especially if your running back room is pretty good. He's your 3rd, 4th, which I think you said he was. So yeah, because I think Tom Brady's going to be getting better as the season goes on. His wide receivers are getting healthy. So as we look at game for this week, Kenyon Drake or Khalil Herbert. Kenyon Drake, he is going to be the starter in Baltimore. The only concern for Kenyon Drake right now for the next month is going to be if Justice Hill beats him out for that starting job, because he did it before. So that's the only potential for Kenyon Drake. But right now, I take Kenyon Drake over Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert, unfortunately, is going to sit behind David Montgomery. He did it last year when Montgomery got hurt. He became a starter, did fantastic, and then came back to earth because they played David Montgomery over him. So the first game for this week is the Falcons at Bengals, and this is the 4th highest scoring potential according to Vegas at 47.5 points. Bengals are a 6-point favorite. So according to Vegas, this is going to be a high scoring game potentially. A.J. Dillon or Devin Singletary rest of season. I'm going to say Singletary for opportunity. And it's a pretty inexpensive way to get somebody on the Bills offense that they've been utilizing him really well this year, surprisingly well. But I would take Singletary because A.J. Dillon's going to be fighting with Aaron Jones the rest of the season, barring an injury. So Vegas thinks that the Bengals and Falcons is going to be a 1-score game because Bengals are only a 6-point favorite. So we shouldn't be looking at a predicting game flow for this game. We shouldn't be thinking, oh, I can use a backup running back or I can use this because they're going to be out to a good lead. The Falcons are a sneaky good team. They're 3-3, and I get it. They're nothing, they're not the top of the list for teams, but they are a pretty decent team. They're at least feisty, so they're going to make this game feisty. I think Marcus Mariota is a good value this week to stream if you need a streaming quarterback. This is a good week to do that for Marcus Mariota if you have one of the QBs on bye or an injury to one of your QBs. If you can trade Devin Singletary for ETN, I think ETN has a better rest of season than Singletary. I think he has opportunity. His snap share and rush percentage has grown as the season's gone on. He is the lead back in Jacksonville, and I like ETN for rest of season. So back to Atlanta. Atlanta is more of a running team. They have ran more than pass this year. On the running side, where I'll highlight is Caleb Huntley. While he actually did play fewer snaps than rookie Tyler Algier last week, he commanded a better rush share than Tyler Algier did. So remember Caleb Huntley, if he's out there, he would be a guy, especially while Cordell Patterson's out. Damian Williams has not been playing. Caleb Huntley is a guy he's probably already picked up, but it's okay. If he gets dropped, that's a guy to remember. On pass catchers, you are looking only at Drake London or Kyle Pitts, but again, it's a low volume passing option. So trying to get ETN for Terry, I like that. If you can get ETN for Terry, I like that trade a lot. I think ETN is a higher ceiling right there. So those are the only two guys on Atlanta I'd be starting is Drake London or Kyle Pitts. I think their I think their ceiling is a lot lower. They have limited volumes, but don't look beyond anybody else in Atlanta. On Cincinnati side, again, I said it, Atlanta's a sneaky defense, both in real football and in fantasy football. They're not any of the greatest, nothing to write home about, but they are decent. They're middle of the road when it comes to, quarterbacks and running backs. Meaning Mixon's going to have a tougher matchup. Guy we drafted high, going to have a tougher matchup. It's going to be a little bit lower in the week this week. Atlanta's really weak against the wide receivers. We don't need to know who's all on the Cincy side for wide receivers. We already know them. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Those are great. So, I don't need to tell you to go play Chase and Higgins. What I will say is if you have Boyd, you need a streaming option. This is a good week to play it. Okay. I might be a little bit on the underside of the score on this game from what Vegas has. A quick note on that. Scoring is down in the NFL this year. Scoring is down. So therefore, I'm going to be down a little bit on scoring. I think Schultz is a good backup. So for your question, Schultz is a good backup for Andrews, and Andrews might miss this week. So having Schultz this week is good. Dropping Madison, it's not a dumb move. Again, Dalvin Cook has been playing with this degenerative shoulder injury that he knows how to play with. Dalvin Cook's still the lead back, honestly, too, because Madison's on bye. If you need somebody for this week, getting Schultz, you can go and pick up Madison for somebody else next week if somebody doesn't claim him. So you can just make him your claim. It's not a bad, especially this week with Andrews being potentially a game time decision and needing a potential backup tight end for your lineup. Next game is Dallas and the Cowboys. Appreciate the questions too. Keep them coming. I'll try to answer them as I go through this here. The Cowboys are a 7-point favorite this week. Then this is listed as tied for the second high, or no, this is the second highest score this week at 48.5 for Vegas. Again, I mentioned the drop in scoring. So if unders start hitting on these, just remember that unders might hit. Lions are coming off a bye. Great thing. Swift is listed as questionable. Again, not a doctor. Don't claim to be one. So if you have Swift, just pay attention to the news. If he's healthy, I would be playing him, but that's just me. Same with Amon-Ra St. Brown. He is working with his ankle injury. It looks like he's going to play. Just keep track of it. If he plays, I'm playing him because I think beat reporters said they're going to get him as many targets as he can handle. DJ Chark is still injured. And then Jameson Williams is still coming back. So you also then have Josh Reynolds. You have a few other pass catchers. You have TJ Hawkinson, of course, there. The Lions are a fun team to watch offensively. The Lions are really fun to watch. but they don't have a defense. So this makes a very good, fun team. Yes, I get it. The Lions, we all remember they were shut out by the Patriots. So here I am touting that they were a very fun, high scoring offense, and they were shut out by the Patriots. I get it. Every team has some of those, and the Lions are a year away. I think I was a bit early on them at the beginning of the year. I'm a Kamara owner. How worried should I be about extra civil suit? I think you just play him, play Kamara until something comes out. I think the court system in the NFL moves slow. So if something does come out, unfortunately, it's going to be probably playoff time for fantasy football, meaning December. If you're going to try to move Kamara, I'd still try to get value for him. So you're talking a top level running back. You might be able to get the Jonathan Taylor owner if Taylor's coming out still hurt. I don't even know if that's a fair trade, if I would do that. I haven't ran that through. That's just the name of coming off the top of my head of like if a Jonathan Taylor owner is worried about him getting hurt again. You could also, I think a guy like Austin Eckler is out of the question, being so high. You might be able to swing. I mean, you might be able to swing a Swift plus something. So if it's a Swift plus something, that might be something you could do there. Anyway, back on the Lions. So yeah, they got shut out by the Patriots, but this was the team also in week 1 that only lost to the Eagles. And the Eagles we have seen as a great team by 3 points. So let's not forget that as well. This is the same Lions team. So I think, yes, the Cowboys are a good defense, but I still think this is an offense that can work the ball against that defense. Yeah, Mixon and Kamara's running back. Yeah, Mixon's gonna hurt. If there's a way to be able to work something to trade, I'd definitely do that. But at some of the times we got to write out some of the harder situations, and it's tough. I feel you there because there are teams. Yeah, I'm writing out some tough situations too. If you're able to, get some guys who are about to get hot, I'd definitely do that. But if you can get value for Mixon and Kamara, I'd definitely go with that. So on the Cowboys side, so this looks to be the return of Dak Prescott, and the Cowboys did go 4-1 with Cooper Rush leading that team, but this was a team that was led through Zeke. It was led through the running backs. This was led through there. So Cooper Rush did a great job. But where I'm looking at for the Cowboys game is to see if it becomes a little more diverse of an offense with Dak Prescott. Does he raise the bar of CeeDee Lamb? Does he help with that? Does he help with ancillary pass catchers like Michael Gallup? Schultz coming back, does that help? How are we going to see this offense go with Prescott back under center? If Dak's back and playing, I'd say you're playing him. It's a good spot. You don't need me to tell you that, though. Colts and Titans, another lower game score for the week at 42.5, and the Titans are 2.5-point favorite. I've spoken before this again on divisional games, on rematches, which they haven't played yet this year, but divisional games that, we see a lot of this. A lot of teams play each other. The same things aren't going to happen the way that it happened the last time these teams played. So we did see last week with the Colts, they went with a different approach offense. It was a very fast, quick pass, short passes, not a whole lot of depth as far as targets go, but it worked. Okay. So we'll see if that same Colts team comes out again, or is it going to be back through Jonathan Taylor, back the same way we saw the first, 4 weeks or so, where they kind of sputtered a bit. I think if this is the way that the Colts are going to play, where it's a quick pass catching, quick short throws, a guy like Alec Pierce is potentially playable. I'd like to see it before it happens. Right now, if you have Pittman, you're starting him. Otherwise, you're kind of just out there trying to see what's going to happen. You're speculating. On the Titans, again, everybody's talking about what Derrick Henry has done. Obviously, you're playing Derrick Henry, but don't think what Derrick Henry did is going to be what happens again. This is a different year, different game. Packers and Commanders, there's really talk here with this. It's a low scoring game. It's a low paced game, which, on the Green Bay side, that's really weird to say because they have Aaron Rodgers there. Lazard and Dubs. Those are the two guys that are going to potentially benefit from this game. I like Robert Tonyan as a streamer this week. On the Commander side, I avoid Wentz if you can. McLaurin is going to be shadowed probably by Jair Alexander. It's going to be a pretty bad one. And I would do Lazard over Dubs because I think they have that connection. Dubs is still earning the trust with Aaron Rodgers. And rest of season for this week is Lazard. I think the rest of the season for the Packers it's also Lazard. I don't like the pass catchers for Green Bay though, just because it's a slow pace of play. It's very inefficient, and they've lost that wide receiver one. And if Lazard's there, he's the number one. He's that potential touchdown guy. That's great. I think he also then fights Robert Tonyan for that position of having touchdown potential on that team. On the Commander side, like I said, I really don't like anybody on this. The ceiling is lowered on McLaurin, on Samuel. The backfield is a mess. We all love the Brian Robinson story. It's a great story. It's a fantastic story. What a, just an amazing thing he was able to do to come back so fast after such a horrific thing. Antonio Gibson, though, was a better running back, in my opinion. That's not a popular thing to say, but they were better with him there. They were better as him leading that backfield. But until this kind of sorts out, I'm hopefully not touching any of those guys to start them. Bucks and Panthers. It's going to be a low-scoring game, according to Vegas. The Bucks, yes, are 11-point favorites. So I think what they're saying is the Bucks are going to score lots and the Panthers are not going to score a whole lot. We did see kind of the shambles of what the Panthers were last week. And without Christian McCaffrey, that is even worse. So honestly, if you can avoid playing DJ Moore, avoid playing DJ Moore. On the Bucks side, I'm not telling you other than, play Mike Evans, play Chris Godwin. You don't need me to tell you that, though. Don't predict game flow. This is what I'll tell you for this game. Don't predict game flow and say I'm playing Rachaad White because there's a lot of bye weeks and I need a running back and I'm going to play Rachaad White because the Bucks are going to come out to a big lead and then White's going to come out and play. We don't know that. We don't know that that's how it's going to work out. So I can't sit here and say do that. While I think Rachaad White is a really great handcuff, I do have him as a handcuff. He's one of the highest handcuffs you could have. The way Leonard Fournette is playing, the amount that he's getting as far as touches, Rachaad White's the guy. Another tight end streamer is going to be K. Dotton for this week. So Giants and Jags, and this is a 42.5 game total. Jags are actually a 3-point favorite, and so this means it's a home game, so they get 3 points. But I think this is a good spot. The Giants have been they're not a pushover. They've been kind of sneaky good. We like Saquon, but the only wide receiver I actually really like on this team is Wan'Dale Robinson. He showed what he can do in limited touches last week. Wan'Dale's going to be a guy rest of the season I really like seeing coming on for the Giants as a pass catcher. I do think Jacksonville comes out and wins this game. I know the Giants are 5-1, but their best win was a comeback win against the Ravens. So I do think this is a spot for the Jaguars to kind of right that ship and get back to winning like they have in the past. Browns and Ravens, again, divisional game, pandemonium will ensue. And this is a game both teams like to run. They're going to. Kenyon Drake's going to run. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, they're going to run. Yes, Mark Cooper's going to get the targets. But if you need a wide receiver sleeper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's the guy that for the Browns, especially for rest of season, especially when Watson comes back, he's going to be the guy that fills that deep target route that can get you a boom week on 3 targets for, 90 yards and a touchdown. That's going to be the guy. On the Baltimore side, again, I've talked about before, Kenyon Drake is going to be the lead, but don't sleep on Justice Hill. We hope Bateman plays, but if not, I mean, if you want a desperation Duvernay, what I will say, if Mark Andrews does sit and he's out this week, I'm not sure about that at this one time. Isaiah Likely is going to be a sneaky tight end. Cleveland is a little bit tough against the tight end, but we all know that Baltimore knows how to use tight ends like wide receivers. Jets and Broncos. Oh boy, what a scary game to talk about. It's a 40.5-point game, and the Broncos are actually a 1.5 favorite, despite Russell Wilson still being hurt and potentially not playing this game. Jets side, Elijah Moore is sitting, not because he's hurt, because he has team differences, and he does not want to be a Jet anymore. But they're still winning, despite what Zach Wilson has not done. He has not led them to victory. He has played, and they have still won. Denver's not a bad defense, though. So this is where I think the Jets get in trouble. Breece Hall has been amazing, but I think he's going to have a harder time this week. On the Broncos side, if Wilson's playing, no, he's not playing. Yes, he is. I don't know. I don't know if it's worse off for the Broncos if Wilson doesn't play. That was the thing. For the running backs, Nathaniel Hackett said Gordon's going to start. Okay. Great. That doesn't mean anything other than he's going to start the game. Does he get the full workload? I don't know. Latavius Murray got last time, and Latavius Murray just got to the team. You kind of start the running backs for Denver at your own risk. We don't know who's going to be to start, so if you can do it, great. Despite who starts at quarterback, I think Sutton's a better value to start than Judy, but this offense is struggling. Texas and Raiders. The Texans, they're bad at defense, but they're also fun to watch. And like the Falcons, they're also feisty. So, yes, you're going to start Carr, you're going to start Adams. We don't know if Renfro's going to play. We don't know if Hollins is going to play. Waller's already out. So, with Waller out, another sneaky tight end is Foster Moreau. Higher scoring game than what could be. I take Michael Gallup over Terry McLaurin, and I know it's a 1-2. I get Michael Gallup is the wide receiver 2, but I think with Dak Prescott coming back, better offense, potential higher scoring offense than what Carson Wentz and Terry McLaurin would have with Washington. But back to the Texans side, the Raiders are the worst, or by worst, I mean best team to play a quarterback against. So if you have a 2 QB and you need a streamer or even a 1, and it's a pretty deep league, Davis Mills is in play this week as a streamer. This also elevates Nico Collins this week. He has been getting more and more of a target share over Brandon Cooks. So this is going to be kind of what we start seeing Nico Collins start establishing himself. And of course, you're starting Dameon Pierce. There's not a question about that. Seahawks Chargers, this is potentially the highest scoring game this week. Both defenses, and I can't believe I'm saying this from the beginning of the year, we wouldn't thought this, both defenses are bad. The Chargers are bad. Yes, we knew the Seahawks were bad at defense, but the Chargers are also bad at defense. We can play Smith. Geno Smith at quarterback. You can play him. He's definitely playable. If healthy, you play Lockett. I don't feel great about that, though. So if you have better options, I would sit him. I'm starting Metcalf and Kenneth Walker with confidence this week. And a tight end for the Seahawks is going to be Noah Fant. On the Chargers side, we see injuries piling up. Like I said, Keenan Allen did a walkthrough practice this week or today, so it's a good chance he plays. But again, I don't know how much I trust his hamstrings. I hope he plays. He's been a great football player. He's a great person. He's a wonderful fantasy football player as well, but he's a great football player. We like seeing people do well. So I hope he plays. I hope he does well. I question it, though. So if you're worried about it, I get it. If I have better options, and there's not a lot better than Keenan Allen, I'm potentially waiting 1 week, which means 2 weeks because their bye is, I believe, next week. So potentially waiting there. Josh Palmer is out. So somebody else is going to step up. Next guy up. I think Jaden Guyton's also out. It's not going to be just the Mike Williams and Austin Eckler show. Gerald Everett probably gets an increase if Keenan Allen is out for the Chargers. Chiefs and Niners. This is the second I stole for 48.5 points, and the Chiefs are a 3-point favorite. So both teams coming off a loss last week. The Niners to Atlanta and the Chiefs to the Bills. If CMC plays, guess what? You're playing him. You don't need me to tell you that, though. So I get the ceiling is probably a little limited, but if he's playing, you're playing him. And KC is a bad run or is a good run defense. They also have been allowing more the last few weeks to the running back. So it's not just they're not giving up anything. They're a little bit vulnerable there. They're more vulnerable against the pass. So like Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, they get an uptick, which also means Garoppolo's in play this week too. On the Kansas City side, I get it. If you play Juju, he got you that game you wanted last week if you played him. We also don't know if he's going to do that again. We cannot tell which wide receiver is going to be there. So if you're on the Kansas City side, it's Patrick Mahomes or Travis Kelce, and you're taking a risk if you play any of the wide receivers, and you're taking a risk if you play CEH, because Jerick McKinnon has been out-snapping him and out-rushing him the past couple weeks. You are taking a risk. Plus, Isaiah Pacheco is on the cusp of being able to be this feature back for this backfield. Steelers and Dolphins. This is a 44.5 game total, and the Dolphins are a 7-point favorite. Again, the Steelers showed us last week why we don't predict game flow. If we predict game flow, we come out wrong, and we do this a lot. We can't predict game flow. So, if you have your studs, if you're playing Deontay, if you're playing Najee, I get it. It makes you uncomfortable. You want to vomit because you're so nauseous sometimes playing these players, but they still have the opportunity. Talent plus opportunity equal output. Sometimes it's going to be a little bit worse than what we hope it's going to be, especially for high draft guys that we have on our teams. Waddle's been playing great. It doesn't honestly matter who's at quarterback. I think Skylar Thompson's a better option than Teddy Bridgewater, but if Tua is back too, it's great. You're playing Tua, you're playing Waddle, you're playing Hill, and then you're playing Mostert. And unfortunately for Chase Edmonds, you're waiting, and he's a high handcuff right now. Rest of the season, Waddle or Mike Evans? Ooh, that's a close one. I am probably going with Mike Evans because he is the number one in Tampa's offense. And I think that offense does start to click and get a little bit better, but it is very close. And I don't think if we thought about this at the beginning of the season, that would not be that close. Waddle would be definitely far down. That's a great question. Those are pretty comparable players. Also, think about while Tyreek Hill has been healthy so far this year, he is an aging wide receiver, and I don't wish any ill on him, any injury. We don't do that here. We don't wish injury on people. If Hill were to go down with a hamstring or some other injury, Waddle becomes that de facto guy there. Brian Robinson or AJ Dillon? Ooh, I would say it's AJ Dillon because I'm going to say AJ Dillon because I think the Packers do have a better offense. I think if we had another week, it'll be there. Brian Robinson's going to be the guy for the Commanders that it's the power back. It's between the tackles, running back, very limited upside with catching ability. They have J.D. McKissick there. They have Antonio Gibson, who's been relegated to probably the special teams at this point, but I think it's A.J. Dillon still, because if something would happen to Aaron Jones, or if somehow the Packers figure something out with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon's a better athlete than Brian Robinson is. Last game we're going to talk about very quickly. So any last questions, pop them in, and I will get to them before we end the stream here tonight. It's Bears and Patriots, and this is a very rough scoring game. It's the lowest on the slate for the week, and the Patriots are an 8-point favorite. On the Bears side, if you have to play somebody, it's probably David Montgomery because there's volume there. We don't like it, but I understand it. And potentially you're able to maybe play wide receiver for the Bears too, but I don't really like it. On the Patriots side, We did just see Ramondre Stevenson get the highest snap share for Patriots running back since I think the early 2000s. But don't predict he's going to get this week in and week out. If he does, that's fantastic. He's sitting on a fantastic year. So there is Kevin Harris, Pierre Strong. They're both capable backs, but Damian Harris is also practicing, so that's going to cut in for Stevenson's workload. Again, not saying don't start Stevenson. Let's not go to best case scenario. So last question I will answer here. D-Hop or Evans rest of season? I think Hop, D-Hop, because Marquise Brown is out at least 1 month, if not longer. He turns into the de facto wide receiver 1 again. I like the potential for the Cardinals with what they have for schedule as well. Again, I think it's close, but there's always that guy that, it's he's 1,000 yards and he's done it for 8 years. So you really can't argue with that. DeAndre Hopkins, though, is the de facto, he is the guy he's the guy that brought the law of conservation of targets. It didn't matter what quarterback he had in Houston, he produced. So right here, I'll just say DeAndre Hopkins. I think it's close. I don't think either is a bad option if you have any of those guys. So thanks for the chat. I appreciate it. Thanks for hearing me ramble and my comments and my brain vomits that I had on you. So traded Hollywood for Evans. Ooh, that's good. I like that. It was a good trade there. So I like that trade. Traded Hollywood for Evans. I had Hollywood and I was holding him to see what he did with DeAndre Hopkins coming back, and unfortunately, he's now my IR. So good for you being forward thinking, taking a risk. That's how you trade. That's how you win. So for us here at the Vampire Fantasy Football Forum, we are signing off. We will see you next week with our reaction. Have a great night.